We're out in the country.
Well,
Page
we're
10.
just gonna sing an E-goon, just an E-goon, so
All
it's
right,
easy.
no, just all right. No page.
Page 10. Page 10.
Yay!
Shabbat Shalom, everyone.
Shabbat Shalom.
So good to be here with you, either here in person or online. Thank you for joining us and being here tonight. So good to be with you. I'm Rabbi Heath Wattenmaker, joined by Cantor Jamie Spall, Rabbi Jeremy Morrison, Rabbi Jonathan Prosnett. Such a pleasure to be here with you tonight. In this moment, to think that a week ago, we were sort of almost at the fullness of the Hanukkah candles, and now here we are 1 week later. The Chanukiot have been put away, the lights of the Chanukiah have been extinguished, and maybe the leftover latkes are sort of dwindling in the fridge a bit, but mostly gone. I have a few left, just a few. But certainly the thing that we take with us is the light and that message of hope that Hanukkah is really all about. We carry that light with us into the darkest days of winter that still lie ahead, but we carry that light with us and we bring it into our midst. Certainly all of you bring a little bit of extra light, and as we light the lights of Shabbat, it's such a joy to call forward the family of our bat mitzvah, Maya Bromberg, tomorrow, along with her parents, Erin Bromberg and Liza Bromberg, and her brother, Matthias Bromberg, to light our Shabbat candles. We're on page 2 or 120.
Right, just stand right here. Rabbi Heath will tell you exactly what to do.
Baruch atah Adonai,
us in Kiddush on page 5 or 123.
Baruch atah Adonai
Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav, v'ratzah lanu, v'shabbat kodsho, v'ahava u'ratzon hinvilanu, zikaron le'maaseh bereshit, ki hu yom tefilah le'mikra'ei kodesh, zecher yetziat mitzrayim, ki lanu acharta ve'otanu kidashta mikol ha'amim, ve'shabbat kodeshecha ve'ahava uvratzon hinchaltanu. Baruch atah Adonai mekadesh HaShabbat.
L'chaim. It's still grape juice, we promise. So.
Continue as we welcome Shabbat into our midst. Words of Lecha Dodi are on page 20 or 138. We'll sing verses 1, 2, 5, and 9. Lecha Dodi, Likarat Kala, B'nei Shabbat, Mekabela. Lecha Dodi, Likarat Kala, B'nei Shabbat, Mekabela. Shamor v'zachor v'diborecha, Ishmi'anu el ha'miyuchad, Adonai echad shemo echad, l'shem u'tiferet v'litfilah. Lecha Dodi, Likarat Kala, B'nei Shabbat, Mekabela. Lecha Dodi, Likarat Kala, B'nei Shabbat, Mekabela. Likrat Shabbat, lecho b'neicha, ki mekor habaracha, merosh mikedem nesucha, zo ma'aseh b'machshavat chila. Lecha Dodi, Likrat Kala, Yalla, 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 B'nei Shabbat, Mekabela. Lecha Dodi, Likrat Kala, Yalla, 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 B'nei Shabbat, Mekabela. Hitoreri, hitoreri, Giva orech u'mi'uri, uri, uri, shir daveri, kevod Adonai, dodili krakala yalala 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 Shabbat nekavela Shalom Aterala Gam Besimcha U'Zahala Tov Lemunei Hamsekula Shabbat ekavela lefadodili kakala yalala 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 Shabbat ekavela. What does it mean to be called to worship? All serious activity requires preparation. The prayers and blessings that precede Baruch Hu are warm-ups for the individual. Now communal prayer begins. The leader asks, "Are you ready to pray?" And we respond, "Yes, let us pray." The words of Baruch Hu are on page 28 or 146. Hope you're all ready to pray. See a slide in just a moment for this beautiful interpretation of Ahavat Olam, the idea of everlasting love. These words that precede the Shema, kind of statement, a preparation for the centrality of that statement of oneness, is this idea that we are loved by an everlasting love. Sing these words by Yaakov Fate together.
We are loved, loved, loved by unending love and unending love. We are loved, loved, loved by unending love and unending love. We are embraced by arms that find us.
our love, 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 thy unending love, and unending love. Page 34, 152, words of the Shema. If you'd like, you can close your eyes.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. 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 Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto, Le'olam Va'ed.
Have a seat. We're on page 36 with the words of the Via Hafta. Earlier today, I was listening to a podcast with our speaker tonight, with Zach Bodner, and he was talking about his book, which I can't wait to hear all about like, why do Jewish? And I was thinking about this prayer, the Via Hafta. I think there's no prayer that asks us to do more Jewish actions than this section of the book of Deuteronomy. We should teach, we should recite, we should bind, we should hang, in terms of the actions that this prayer, this sacred prayer that we chant daily, calls on us to do. And certainly we are a religion of belief, but we are also a religion of action. And together we chant the words of the Via Hafta.
ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך, והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך, ושיננתם לבניך, ודיברת בהם, בשבתך בביתך, ובלכתך בדרך, ובשוכבך ובתקומך, וקשרתם לאות על ידך, והיו לתותפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אדוני אלוהיכם, amen.
The song of our redemption, the words of Micha Mocha, are on page 40.
Yabai bai bim bidi bam, yabai bai bim bam, yabai bai bim bidi bam, yabai bai bim bam, lai 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 lai, yabai bai bim bam, lai 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 lai, yabai bai bim bam. Mi
Ichad Adonai et Yaakov, וגאלו מיד חזק ממנו, ברוך אתה אדוני. גאל Yisrael.
Keep singing the song of our nighttime prayer, our song for shelter and peace. Of Rabbi Abraham Joshua Heschel, prayer invites God's presence to suffuse our spirits, God's will to prevail in our lives. Prayer may not bring water to parched fields, nor mend a broken bridge, nor rebuild a ruined city. But prayer can water an arid soul, mend a broken heart, rebuild a weakened will. If you're able, please rise. The Amidah begins on page 46.
Take a few moments now for our own silent prayer. You can be seated when you're finished your prayer. The words in the prayer book go through page 63.
Shalom Rav are on page 60 or 178.
Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Ki atahu melech adon lechol hashalom. Ki atahu melech adon lechol hashalom. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. V'tov beinecha livarech et amecha Yisrael b'chol עת ובכל שעה בשלומך. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Tasim Leolam. Tasim Leolam.
Our Torah portion this week is called Vayigash. Vayigash Alav Yehudah. It's a moment, a climactic moment in the story of Joseph when Judah comes near to him, comes near to Joseph, and in a moment later, Joseph will reveal his true identity. In these moments, as we turn to these words of healing, we engage in a process of drawing near. With our words, we draw near to those in need of healing, and we draw them closer to us. And so, on this night, we offer these words of compassion, this prayer of healing for David Ben-Ami, Ginny Anderson, Helen Bayer, Jerry Blum, Renee Budak, Diane Dennenberg, Liz Dietz, Kathleen Duncan, Emily Duncan Horning, Mary Lou Garfinkel, Selena Glader, Diana Guthoner, Barbara Heiken, Anita Holzberg, Dorothy Huppert, Moritz Huppert, Marvin Jones, Joan Carlin, Aaron Levinson, Stan Myers, Alex Nissenberg, Eshra Ozturk, Eileen Peak, Faye Ellen Perlis, Rabbi Lori Phillips, Idel Razel, Sue Rehut, Jonathan Sachs, David Baruch Ben Simona, Matthew Smith, Donna Spanger, and Nicole Gent Wickenheiser. Are there any other names? We join together in these words of healing.
Healer of the brokenhearted, binder of their wounds, counter of uncountable stars,
indestructible stars. You know who we are. Ana Elna Rifana Our guest teacher tonight, Zach Bodner, is known to many of you through his incredible work as the CEO of the Oshman Family JCC in Palo Alto. But before joining the JCC, Zach served for 14 years as the Pacific Northwest Regional Director of APAC. He holds a master's degree in philosophy of religion and theology from Claremont Graduate University, and a bachelor's degree from Yale University, where he played varsity soccer. Probably the most important part of his bio. Additionally, he studied at Hebrew University in Jerusalem, Or Sameach Yeshiva, and Stanford Business School. Zach is a seeker, a moth storyteller, a TEDx presenter, a community organizer, and now he is also the author of a new book titled Why Do Jewish? A manifesto for 21st century Jewish peoplehood. Zach, we're thrilled that you are with us here tonight to celebrate Shabbat, and we are looking forward to learning from you.
Thank you, Rabbi Morrison.
My pleasure.
Shabbat Shalom.
Are you going to stand there?
Sure, why not?
All right.
Is this okay? What a beautiful, warm introduction, bio. Thank you, Rabbi Morrison, for inviting me here, for your colleagueship, for your friendship. It's wonderful to have you in our community. And to our other colleagues, to Cantor Spall, beautiful service. It's wonderful to hear your voice. It just brings so much love and warmth and spirituality here. To my colleagues, my friends, Rabbi Heath, Rabbi John. I don't have any more latkes, but I am wearing the Hanukkah socks. So just in case, there's a little bit of a remnant there. And he did a beautiful ceremony, conversion ceremony for a friend of mine just a couple weeks ago, and just did a beautiful job. And John, I'm just thrilled that you're reading my book and not just your wife's cookbooks, that there's other books in your repertoire, so thank you. It's wonderful to be here. And to my own colleague, Mark Holtzman, former president of the board here, my friend and colleague at the JCC, and his wife, Marla, thank you for joining us for your first in-person Shabbat tonight. I understand you're here usually on Zoom, but thank you for keeping me company up here. And a big mazel tov to Maya and the Bromberg family. I hope you're enjoying this moment. This is really special, and it's great that you're able to do it in person. I had my son's bar mitzvah on Zoom during COVID, so it's great that you're able to kind of be here with family and friends, and Yasher Koach to you. I know it'll be a great day and a great celebration. So yes, as Rabbi Morrison said, my book is called Why Do Jewish, which may not be proper English, but don't tell my mom, the English teacher, right? But it's about the doing for me, and it's about the seeking, and it's about the searching. And in my mind, all of us should be able to answer this question of why. Why are we doing this? Why are we holding on to this tradition? Why are you here on a Friday night, on a Saturday, when there's so many other fun things you could be doing? You have to be able to answer that question of why for yourself, and for your kids, and for your grandkids, for your community. You have to be able to understand why this is so important, why so many millions of dollars are being pumped into synagogues and JCCs and federations and institutions to pass on Jewish survival, Jewish continuity, Jewish peoplehood. Why? Do you know why for yourself? It's worth asking that question. For me, I started asking this question back in high school, and I remember very clearly, I grew up in Southern California in a town called Claremont, just outside of Los Angeles. And despite it being in LA and a college town, I didn't have many Jewish friends, but two of my closest friends were Jewish. One of whom was barely Jewish, if you consider kind of observance of halachot as Jewish or not. That's not how we see it these days, whether you feel it in your soul or not. But back then we talked about whether you were very Jewish or not. And this was a guy who brought home a non-Jewish girlfriend one day in high school, and his father flipped out on him. Just flipped. It was like a Tevye moment out of, Fiddler on the Roof. I thought he was going to tear his clothes and disown him. He was so passionately frustrated with his son for bringing home a non-Jewish, and I didn't understand it. I really was like, I didn't understand the hypocrisy of him. I mean, this was a kid who, we went to Yom Kippur services one year, and he came home and ate a ham and cheese sandwich afterwards. I mean, I'm not kidding. Like, he really did. That's not an exaggeration. And by the way, I have no judgment on people's eating or treif or not. Like, I have my own kind of weird kashrut. We kind of keep kosherish in the house, like no treif. But outside the house, somehow lobster becomes kosher. That's just the way we do it. But, growing up, it wasn't that way. Growing up, I knew very clearly my parents had much stricter rules. No pepperoni pizza in the house. Outside the house, it was okay. But, we knew we were Jewish growing up. My dad, no German Shepherd we weren't allowed to own. Like, no German car. This is my father. It took him years to accept that his Audi was not a Swedish car, by the way. It really did. But we knew we were Jewish. I remember this story. My father, who didn't eat shellfish or pork products, we went out one night to dinner, and he ordered the lobster bisque. And we all kind of looked at him, shocked. And he quickly says to the waiter, "Hold the lobster." And we're kind of like, what do you mean? And my dad's like, the little lobster garnish on the top. You can leave that off. So we had a funny way of keeping kosher. But we knew very much that we were Jewish. My parents led one of the very first BBYO teen tours to Israel. We were very Zionistic. We did Shabbat dinners on Friday night. But my friend wasn't, very Jewish, and he brings home this non-Jewish girlfriend, and his father gets so upset with him. And I just didn't understand the hypocrisy. It's like, if it was that important to you, be able to explain it to your son. Be able to show him that it matters so much, that this is why you're praying. But if we care so much, we should be able to hold on to this tradition regardless of who we spend our lives with. Regardless. If it's that important to us, should it really matter if the person we marry is going to continue this tradition with us or not, or endorse it with us, or be a part of it with us? For me, this is why it led to the formulation of why do Jewish, as opposed to why be Jewish. In my mind, that's the moment we're in the 21st century. When I started researching and writing the book, there were 4 books out there with the title, Why Be Jewish? There are none with the title, Why Do Jewish? But in my mind, it's really about the doing today. I really don't appreciate when somebody says, no, don't worry, it's the thought that counts. This term of art, it's the thought that counts. It's really somebody trying to make you feel better when you're too lazy to really do something. Like, oh, yeah, it was your birthday. I thought about getting you a card. I just didn't have time. No, do something, right? Just make that effort of the doing. It's not enough to just think. It's okay, it's fine, but it's about the tachlis. You know this word tachlis? Have you heard this word? It's a great Yiddish word. The Israelis have adopted it into the modern Hebrew nomenclature. There's no equivalent in English. But tachlis is like getting down to brass tacks. When you're sitting in a meeting and there's too many people talking, you just kind of like, what's the tachlis? Let's get down to business. It's a great word. Feel free to use it whenever you want. You can even use it improperly. Like John Hamm and his Yiddish during the last Curb Your Enthusiasm episode. Anyway, tachlis, it's a great word. So in my mind, it's about the doing. There's a member of our board of directors at the JCC here in Palo Alto. She's Japanese. She's not Jewish. She didn't convert. Her husband's Jewish because he was born to Jewish parents. But he doesn't do a whole lot Jewishly. But it's our friend who's on the board of directors of the JCC. She's the one who cares about her Jewishness. She's the one who's schlepping her kids to JCC preschool. Now she's taking her oldest to Hebrew school preparations. She's actually leading our mission to Israel this summer. She's the one who makes the Shabbat dinners on Friday nights. She's part of our family. She's doing Jewish. Nobody's going to say to me that she's less Jewish than her husband just because of who her mother was or because she didn't choose to convert. In my mind, that's the doing. That's the tachlis. So the epigraph of my book is a quote from David Ben-Gurion, the first prime minister of Israel, which is, words without deeds are nothing. Words without deeds are nothing. I love that. Right? So in this book, which is divided into kind of 3 chunks, so the first chunk is why do Jewish. The second is what is Jewish. And then the third is how to do Jewish. And then the kind of culmination, the how, I've used this word tachlis to develop a new framework for what I think is important about doing Jewish in the 21st century. And it's an acronym. There's a poster out there you can look at later. I brought bookmarks for those of you who haven't had a chance to get the book yet, which kind of lays it out. It's not a pitch or anything, right? It's a subtle pitch. If you have, you could put a review on Amazon. That's always nice. No. Tachlis. So 7 letters. And this is how I think about doing Jewish in the 21st century. You could pick one of these. You could pick 2, 3. You could do all of them. But picking and doing some of this is what will help you connect to your Jewishness. It will help you find meaning in your life. Because at the end of the day, that's what we're looking for. We're all looking for meaning and connection. Those 2 things. Most of you are probably here tonight because you're finding meaning in this beautiful service. You're finding meaning in your community. You're finding connection to the people around you, a sense of belonging. That's why we connect the way we do. And I think engaging in Tachlis is another way of making Jewish life meaningful, relevant, and joyous for the next century or more. So here's what it stands for. The T is for Tikkun Olam. You know this term, Tikkun Olam, repairing the world. Right? So many of us define our Jewishness by trying to make the world a better place. And it doesn't mean we have to do it by engaging in Jewish social action causes. Environmental justice, social justice, racial justice, issues on poverty, all of these things, if you're engaged in making the world a better place, and many of our young people today, that's how they define their Jewishness, by trying to repair the world. That's a core Jewish value. That's a perfect way for showing your Jewishness. And just, even if it's for a non-Jewish cause, make sure the people around you understand that you're doing this because it's part of your Jewish soul, your Jewish neshama, that you want to make the world a better place. That's the T in Tachlis, Tikkun Olam. The A is art and culture. How many people do we know connect to their Jewishness because of art? They love the paintings of Chagall. They love the stories of Shalom Aleichem or the comedy of Sarah Silverman. Or maybe they just like eating Jewish food, right? Bagels and lox, pastrami and knish, or you know, there's also Yemenite Jewish food. I don't mean to be so Ashkenazi-centric, right? There's so many different ways of connecting to your Jewishness. I actually get offended when people say, oh, they're just bagels and lox Jews. Have you heard this? Kind of like they're looking down on people. No, that's a great way of connecting to your Jewishness. It's a very easy portal of entry. It's very soft. There's no intimidation. You don't have to know Hebrew to know that you kind of like bagels and lox. Now, hopefully that's a portal of entry that kind of allows you to do more with your Jewishness. But that's the A, is the art and the culture. Music, food, film, books. The C in Tachlis is for community. That's what you're all doing here tonight. That's what you do so well. One of the first or second commandments in the Torah is it's not good for humans to be alone. We are about community. You have to daven in a minyan, right? You can't lift up Maya on a chair doing the Hora with one person. Right? It's been hard on Zoom to find real community, but we've been very creative. We do community well. We do community well. That's the C. The H in Tachlis is for holidays and rituals. We also do holidays well. We do the Jewish calendar well. Holidays and rituals. Finding that way to connect to the calendar, to the life cycle, the cycles of the seasons. Finding the way to connect to the world around us by celebrating, by sometimes mourning. Right? And finding those holidays that speak to you and finding modern meaning in them. You know, many of us will put up a sukkah during Sukkot, and that's a way for, yes, we commemorate having been wandering in the wilderness and having put up these temporary dwellings, but I like to think of it as a way to show gratitude for the roof over our head and the food on our table and the things that are so tentative in life, right? So holidays and rituals are an important way of doing Jewish. That's the H. The L is for learning. We're the people of the book, after all. Learning. It's an important way to figure out how we're connected. Not just the Torah and the Talmud, but that's part of it. It's also the modern Jewish canon. Right? There's so many wonderful books out there, so many modern texts, whether it's the Jonathan Saxes or the Abraham Joshua Heschels that Rabbi John quoted tonight. There's Emma Lazarus. There's so much Jewish wisdom out there. Learn it. Get serious about it. Have fun with it. There's a Jewish film club that you can start, a Jewish music club. But that's all part of what it means to learn. And in this era of doing yourself DIY, you've heard this term DIY, do-it-yourself Jewish, we have to get a little bit more knowledgeable so that when we're doing it at home or when we're doing it on Zoom, we know a little bit more about what we're doing. So the learning is important. The I in Tachlis is for Israel. Finding a way to connect to our ancient homeland. Recognizing that we live in this historic moment. This is the first time ever in the history of the Jewish people. This is the first time ever where there's a strong Jewish homeland and a strong Jewish diaspora here in North America. We're blessed. We're blessed to be living in this moment. And we must find a way to connect with Israel. And that doesn't mean always supporting Israel no matter what they do. It means engaging. To be Jewish means to wrestle with God anyway. We can wrestle. But to have a relationship with Israel is important to what it means to be Jewish. And finally, the S in Tachlis is for Shabbat and spirituality. What you doing tonight? Shabbat. Echad Ha'am famously said, it's not so much that the Jews have kept Shabbat, but that Shabbat has kept the Jews. Shabbat is a central part. And find your own way of doing Shabbat. Tiffany Schlein is this great author who wrote a book called 24/6. And for her family, it's about unplugging. It's about tech-free Shabbat, right? It's not necessarily about not turning off the lights. It's not necessarily about not getting in the car, but it's about finding your own way of unplugging. And this was so important for me during COVID. I don't know about you, but for my wife and I, we had an ongoing joke. We didn't know if we were working from home or living at work, right? Like it all started to blend together. And because you just, like when you don't have something to do, you just pop open the laptop, you get back to work, and one day just bled into the next. And we finally had to have some separation. In talking to my friend Tiffany, she's like, why don't you try doing some, because we were not Shomer Shabbos, I'm not observant. And we started doing some like unplugging, tech-free Shabbats. And it's a great Jewish value. We have a lot of non-Jewish families at our preschool, right, Mark? And I can't tell you how many of them come back and they go, oh, we love this idea of Shabbat. Now we as a family, we're going to have Friday night family dinners, right? Well, we're going to unplug, we're going to engage with each other, put our cell phones away. Like, it's a great thing. It's probably the best religious invention of all time, this idea of Shabbat. And then the idea of spirituality. You're here, you're praying, you're singing. That works for a lot of people. For some people, it doesn't. For some people, it's Zen Buddhist meditation. It's finding a way of connecting. So this idea of engaging in tachlis. Those are the 7 things that I feel like if we find a way to engage in at least one of them, we can make Jewish life meaningful, relevant, and joyous. We can rejuvenate it. We can make it for the young people today. And I don't know, you'll have to tell me, Maya. You're about to embark, hopefully, on the next part of your Jewish journey. Hopefully the bat mitzvah isn't the culmination. Hopefully this is just that next step. But if Maya and her colleagues and her friends and her contemporaries have to say, I have to choose between confirmation and going on, or I've got this really cool soccer team, or I've got dance, or I've got art, it's a tough choice if the Jewish part is not that fun and not that engaging. If we make it fun and engaging, then it's going to be an even tougher choice, by the way, because she's going to say, I love this. I love this part of my Jewish identity. And I'm going to want to continue to do this. And we owe it to Maya and all of her contemporaries. We owe it to ourselves to be able to answer this question of why. So I'll just end with a final quick story. My father, of blessed memory, who passed away and was in many ways the inspiration for me for writing this book, when he passed away 7 years ago, I wanted to say Kaddish with my brother who lived in Colorado. And the rabbis are like, you can't really do it virtually that way. It's not kosher, you know? You have to be in the same room. You can't even be in a room around the corner, right, if you're going to follow the real rules. But okay, whatever. Like, I still did it with my brother. Who cares if it's kosher or not? Again, I'm not an observant Orthodox Jew, but I still felt a little part of me was kind of like, that's a real bummer. You know, I remember saying, like, what about Jews who live in Juneau, Alaska? Like, the middle of nowhere, Bozeman, Montana, where you can't find a minyan. How do you make a minyan to say Kaddish for a parent if there's no one around? Fast forward to last year during COVID, and my son had a Zoom bar mitzvah, and we did it online, and it was beautiful, and it was so joyous, and we were able to have friends and family from Israel and all over the country that wouldn't have been able to come in participate. We were in the very, very first Zoom bar mitzvahs, where there'd only been one that we'd seen beforehand, so we got to experiment. We got to have all sorts of musicians, and it just became a big, joyous, fun thing. And of course, during COVID, there were rabbis all over, even in Israel, going, maybe we can daven and do the high holidays on Zoom. Maybe it's not so bad to be virtual anymore. Technology's changing things, and we have to be able to keep up. And that's what the 21st century is all about. And Jewishness and our identity and making it joyous and meaningful and relevant has to be part of that equation too. So I will say to you all, thank you for having me. Shabbat Shalom, Mazal Tov to you and your family, and good Shabbos.
Zach, thank you so much, and I'll do the shameless plug. You can find his book on certain major retailers online. I'm hopeful maybe in local bookshops, I don't know. Kepler's has 2. So it's a very good book. I urge you to read it. And I also know that Zach will stay around for a few minutes after services if you'd like to ask him further questions and connect with him. We continue now with the Aleinu on page 282. And I ask you to rise, please.
Let's do the top paragraph tonight. Why not?
Okay.
Aleinu l'shabeach l'Adon hakol, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שהוא נוטה שמיים ויוסף הארץ, ומושב יקרוב בשמיים ממעל, ושכינת עוזו בגופי מרומים, הוא אלוהינו אין עוד. ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא.
Page 287.
ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא, ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו
Echad. Please be seated. The Kaddish is on page 294, and this setting is entitled Effortless Affection. All last requests are granted, and this is mine. Grasp my affection in your hand and hold it there. Gather my affection into your heart and store it there. Draw my affection in simple lines in your mind and foster it, further it, funnel it into all the coastal plains and lowlands where daily life and memory flow together. Let the river of affection rise and overflow. Let the grasses in the meadow near the river bend in the current where my love has flooded your land. We recall at this time those members of our congregation and of its families who have died during the past week. Walter Jennings, father of Jay Jennings and Jeff Jennings, grandfather of Matthew, Jaden, Brittany, and Jack Jennings. We add to his name those for whom we observe Shaloshim, the traditional 30-day period of mourning. Arlene Gilliland and Anne Hunting Highmark. And we remember too on this night those for whom we are observing yahrzeit during this week. Don Allen, Sylvan Blumenson, George Bozaki, Anna Bricko, Catherine Busey, Richard Chang, Eva Cohen, Albert Cohen, Blanche Cohen, Richard Kopaiken, Rose Pinsker Davis, Sarah Davis, Linda Darian, Peter Doctorow, Lena Dryanoff, Mary Duckin, Grace Eckert, Ethel Rosenblum Feldman, Bruce Fendel, Moisey Finkelstein, David Garfinkel, Carol Flaxman, Dorothea Gainan, Carol Gerstein, Henry Golding, Samuel Goodman, Gregory Grack, Tilly Green, Rhoda Grummett, Bella Gutman, Howard Marshall Holtzman, Esther Jones, Thomas Kaub, Nehuma Kalyakatina, Robert Kirkwood, Harold Klarich, Harvey Koch, Roman Korsunsky, Lev Kunin, Arnold Lawrence, Rose Leibowitz, Zita Levy, Marcia Lertzman, Egon Loebner, Jeff Lyon, Brandon Marshall, Noel Mateo, Sylvia Weiss Mermelstein, Patricia Miller Krauskopf, Samuel J. Moss, Solomon Munvez, Marion Rothschild Netter, Walter Nemesik, Lena Orshenskaya, Bernice Ortenberg, Marian Perlstein, Harry Polish, Irving Schwartz, Marjorie Settle, Riva Shoket, Yachiel Schulman, Edward Silver, Lauren Sosniak, Irene Stolman, Lillian Volper, Saul Wasserman, Arlene Weisbrod, Leon Wenger, Joyce Wertman, Alvin Wilner, and Cedric Zweig. Are there any other names? Zichronam Levracha, may their memories be for a blessing. And we now stand with you as we recite the Kaddish together. Yit Gadal v'yit Kadash Shemei Rabbah, B'yalma divarach yirtei v'yamlich malchutei, B'chayechon v'mechon v'chaye d'chol Beit Yisrael, Ba'agala v'zman kariv v'yamaru Amen. Yehei Shmei Rabba Mevarach Le'olam Alameo Maya, Yitbarach V'yishtabach V'yitpa'ar V'yitraman V'yitnaseh, V'yitadar V'yitaleh V'yitalal Shmei D'Kudesha B'richu, Le'ela Min Kol Birchata V'shirata, Tushbechata V'nechamata, Da'amiran B'yalma V'yamaru Amen. Yehei Shalama Rabba Min Shemaya, V'chaim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru Amen. Oseh shalom b'mramav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru Amen.
Oseh shalom b'mramav, hu ya'aseh shalom.
Just a reminder that we are collecting tzedakah all this month for the Israeli Women's Network, which was founded in 1984 with the aim of promoting a better society in Israel through social equality by focusing on women's equality and creating the social, physical, economic, and judicial conditions for their prosperity. We remind you that you can donate through our tzedakah box, which is in the back of our space here, but also, of course, you can give tzedakah through Venmo. And our handle is @Beth-Am. This is a very permissible use of a cell phone, even in this space, and even at this moment. So I'll leave you with that.
And you can donate on the Beth-Am webpage, too, if you don't know what Venmo is.
Yes. And we take, yes. All night long, I don't know how you're feeling right now, but all night long I've been thinking that I've come to Northern California to experience what it is like to be one of the frozen chosen, which is basically what you experience, what our good friends in Minnesota call themselves. So I appreciate you coming into this space on this night. As you've learned, if this is your first time being here in a while, bring layers, because we got some more weeks of winter and months of winter to come. So, but it's great that you're all here, and we close tonight with the singing of
Non como nuestro Dios en Keloheinu, page 327, 631 for you online. Before we do, I'd like to thank you, Jay, for being our drummer tonight. It's fantastic. Jay Rousseff, everyone. So this is in Ladino, which is a Judeo-Spanish. So those of you who are Spanish speakers, don't be thrown off by the weird Spanish you hear. But here we go. En Keloheinu, en Keloheinu, en Keloheinu, en Keloheinu,
Non como nuestro Dios, no como nuestro Señor.
nuestro Salvador.
¿Quién como nuestro Señor? ¿Quién como nuestro Rey? ¿Quién como nuestro Salvador? No del Adonenu, no del Eloheinu, no del Moshiachenu. Nuestro Dios, oremos a nuestro Señor, oremos a nuestro Rey, oremos a nuestro Salvador. Eloheinu, Baruch Adonenu, Baruch Eloheinu, Baruch Moshiachenu. Bendijo nuestro Dios, bendijo nuestro Señor, bendijo nuestro Rey, bendijo nuestro Salvador. Atahu Eloheinu, Atahu Adonenu, Atahu Malkeinu, Atahu Moshiachenu. Tú sos nuestro Dios, tú sos nuestro Señor, tú sos nuestro Rey,
Tú sos nuestro Salvador. I have to see if Duolingo has Ladino.
Yeah, fun. So, Cantor Spa is going to teach Ladino classes in 2022. So, join us for Motzi. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Shabbat shalom. Shabbat shalom. Say hi to somebody new on your way out.
Shabbat shalom, everyone. Take care.